Hi everyone. In this class I'll be breaking down Galavasana and just showing you a few progressions to work towards it. So Galavasana, you want to make sure that your hips are open. Okay, so essentially Galavasana, the leg is going to look something like this. Okay, so a good way to get into it would be, maybe you've done this in vinyasa class. So as if you're sitting back into a chair and then coming into this position, getting the knee as high up into the armpit as possible, and also this foot as high up into the armpit as possible. Okay, and then you can just practice from here. I like to initially start with an external rotation. Okay, so turning the biceps out, leaning forward to press the shoulders, and just lean forward. So you can just practice that, just leaning forward, just feeling that weight shift. Okay. You could say that Galavasana is very similar to Bakasana and Kakasana, so the crow and the crane. So initially when you learn Bakasana, for most people it's going to be more of a crow rather than a crane. I'll show you what I mean. So for most people when they learn Bakasana, it's going to look more like this, with the elbows bent, coming into a position something like this in the beginning, the elbows remaining bent. Okay, and then eventually maybe you get stronger and you can start doing it with the arms straight, which will look more like this. Okay, so it's the same thing with all these arm balances in the third series. Initially you start with the elbows bent, but then eventually you're working towards straightening the arms, which is not easy. Okay, so with Galavasana we'll do the same thing. I'm going to just do the other leg to make sure I'm balanced. So come in like this, start kind of like a crow, and then start to work on extending that leg. This is kind of like the Iyengar way. If you look in BKS, Iyengar's light on yoga, he does it something like this, kind of like a chaturanga position, which actually aesthetically I quite like that shape. Okay, in Ashtanga we try to lift the leg, instead of having it horizontal, the leg going as high as possible. Okay, so to get that leg as high as possible, you're going to have to keep the elbows a little bit bent initially, and also you're going to have to open your hip up towards the ceiling. Okay, so the first variation I just showed you, keeping the hips square, but in Galavasana, to get your leg really high, you need to open your hip up to the ceiling, something like this. Okay, so you need to use your glutes a lot, and also make sure the leg is really working. So the leg is really lifting you up, and this leg, which will be the bent leg, is pushing down into your arm. Okay, so it's like this standing pose here. So the more I push into this foot, the more my hip opens, the more I can lift that leg up. Okay, but the hard part of this is coming from a tripod headstand and trying to transition and lift up at the same time. So I'll show you how to do it. So come down to your cross leg. You can use the other leg to make sure you get in really tight. So keep that leg up nice and high, and then before you go anywhere, just get used to being here, lifting that other leg as high as possible. Okay, so just to understand the trajectory of the leg, and then you have to engage and try to lift up, try to feel like the leg is pulling you up, so you're not just relying on your shoulders. If you want to make it a bit more fancy, you can try jumping straight into the headstand. Come up, across, bring it in. Exhale fully. To shift the weight back so you feel the head lift. The head comes light, then at that moment, push everything. Push the floor away and lift that leg up. Okay. Once you start trying to work the arms straight, it kind of becomes difficult to keep the leg high. Okay, so if you're going for that, the look of having the leg really high, then keep a slight bend in the elbows. If you start working to getting the arms straight, just know that it's going to also pull the leg down. So the thing to focus on is this, so this leg here, you really need to feel like you're kicking it in against this arm. Okay? So this is where the flexibility comes in, like if your hips are a little tight, then you'll find the foot wants to come down. But if your hips are open, you can keep the foot up higher, and it makes it easier to get that extra lift. Also, my foot then was just sliding, so if you have tights on, it's going to make it easier, or a shirt, or some chalk, or don't sweat. Okay, so yeah, hope that was helpful. Leave a comment below and let me know. Thank you.